All right, Karis, do you want to get started?
Yes, it is 6:05, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Um, I'm Karis Taylor. I'm an AmeriCorps volunteer coordinator at There Goes My Hero, so I work directly with our volunteers. I'm just going to introduce a few people in here that helped make tonight possible and work together. We have Gerard Charlotte. He's an Alpha Phi Alpha representative. We have Opel Jones, who is a county councilman and a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. We have Geneau Thames, who is a member of Heroes Board, also a blood cancer survivor, and she will be the one presenting to us tonight. We have Stephanie Cup, Heroes Community Outreach Coordinator, and we have Mary Kay Diubaldo, which is Heroes Executive Director. So I'm just going to go over the agenda really quick for the night. Opal will hop on and share a few words with us. Junea will be presenting our presentation tonight, and then at the end there will be time for questions and how we can get you guys involved. But feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions during the presentation. Just a reminder, everyone keep your mics off so that everyone can hear the speaker. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them at the end, or we also have a chat box, so feel free to drop your questions in there. And without further ado, Opal, the mic is yours.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Opel Jones. I was elected from District 2 in the Howard County Council, which serves East Columbia, the two Columbia villages of Long Reach Village and Oakland Mills Village, as well as parts of Ellicott City and Elk Ridge, and a couple of outlets in Hanover and Jessup. So my district is drawn a little funny, but I'm one of 5 members on the Howard County Council. As also was mentioned earlier, I do community service through several organizations, but most proudly with Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I've been a member for 23 years now, so it's definitely been a blessing to give back for 23 consecutive years and going. I just wanted to share a few quick words before the main speaker tonight. Serving as the only African American on the Howard County Council, there are certain issues and certain ideas that I hear and certain issues that I talk to constituents about. And one of the main things, especially for our seniors, is healthcare and making sure that hesitancy in the African American community and other communities of color do not hinder us when it comes to being healthy. So going to see the doctor, yearly checkups, and of course, most recently is the vaccination for COVID-19. I can honestly say that I was hesitant at first, given the history of the government with African American males, to be exact. But when it was my time, I got my first shot, and I am patiently and impatiently waiting my second shot. So if anyone is here with hesitancies to see the doctor or to get checked out or to go check on things that you know may not be right, take it from me. It is a little daunting as an African American male, and just from having parents or grandparents who may not have gone to the doctor regularly, but we have to change that dynamic. We have to change that narrative in our community. So there's a lot more that I can say, but the woman of the hour is up next, so I won't be any longer. I'll just say very briefly that Ms. Thames is an attorney, an associate vice president, general counsel, and secretary for Hartford Mutual Insurance Company. She does amazing things for the company. She lives in Bel Air in Hartford County, Maryland, and she is a loving wife and has 3 children. And I am too. I'm a loving father. I'm a husband with 3 children as well. But not to Miss Thames, but the different things. But you know what I'm saying. I forgot to mention my family. My wife says, you gotta make sure you mention me and the kids, and I always forget. So
Absolutely.
in the midst of talking about Miss Thames, I wanted to mention that as well. So please, without further ado, let's give a round of applause to the woman of the hour, Miss Thames.
Thank you, Opal. That was a funny way of introducing me, so I do appreciate that. Yes, I have a lot of things going on in my professional career. I am an attorney by trade. I have been practicing law for 15 years. The first 10 as a litigator. The last, I guess it's 16 years. The last 6 have been in the area of corporate law. I am the first person. Hartford Mutual Insurance Company has been around since 1842, and I was the first woman of color elected to a C-suite position, where I've been for the last 2 years. So trying to break all kinds of ceilings and stereotypes and all kinds of things in that space as well. But I don't come to you today as that with my corporate space. I come to you really with a very personal story, and that involves my diagnosis with acute myeloid leukemia back in 2016. Out of nowhere, really out of the blue, because I didn't have that many symptoms. I was going to the doctor for an annual checkup, and I was diagnosed right there. I had just blood work done to check like my cholesterol numbers. I was called immediately to the back, sent to get additional blood work, and before you know it, within the next 2 days, I had been told that I had leukemia and I had to go in the hospital, where I spent the next 33 days at Johns Hopkins University undergoing significant induction chemotherapy and eventually a bone marrow transplant. During my journey, which it was, difficult, we all have our journeys, I told myself that if I got out of this, I would try to pay it forward. And in doing so, I immediately joined, once I got myself back together and got myself healthy again, I joined the board of There Goes My Hero, and we started the Color the Registry Initiative, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. If throughout this presentation you have any questions whatsoever, please, you could either put it in the chat box, and Mary Kay or one of the other phenomenal women I'm here with today will let me know, and we can have plenty of questions. This really is meant to be an informational session so that we can change the dialogue and the argument and just where we stand on this issue as a community. So HERO's mission is very simple. It's to save lives, provide hope, and help those impacted by blood cancer. It was founded in 2009 by Eric Sauer. That's his picture right there. Eric needed a bone marrow transplant, and he was able to find one by an unrelated person who actually was located in Germany. What HERO does, more importantly, is what these numbers represent, and that is that we try to get individuals registered on the National Bone Marrow Registry. To date, we've been able to get 21,000 individuals registered. We found 421 matches, and we've gotten 46 life-saving transplants. So why does diversity matter? And I'm about to show you this video that was taken of me while I was undergoing my journey. Some of you may have even seen it, who knows? We're doing 2 bangs and a ponytail again, Jade.
Yeah. Getting her daughter ready and both kids off to school is routine in a life that has been anything but since this summer. That's when Geneau Thames, a married, busy Bel Air mom of 3, found out she had acute myeloid leukemia.
The doctor asked me if I was tired, but I'm a mother. I have 3 children. I've been tired for 17 years.
It doesn't discriminate, and your life changes like that.
Geneau is now in remission, undergoing a 3rd round next week just to keep her that way until she can get a bone marrow transplant. But finding a donor isn't going to be easy.
It's more likely than not that I'm going to be able to find a match with someone who's of the same ethnic background that I am.
On average, about 1 in 430 on the registry will actually go on to donate.
Amy Haskew is from Be the Match, which is sponsoring a 2-day bone marrow registry for Geneau this Friday and Saturday. She says those with Caucasian ancestry have a 98% chance of finding a match.
So if you have Black ancestry, which is African, African American, Black Caribbean, Black Central, and South American, your odds are going to range somewhere between 40 and 70%.
And not because we're special, because we're not in the registry. So if you're African American especially, go get tested and save someone else.
Everyone is welcome at the event, and Amy shows me just how fast and easy it is to register, all with a simple cheek swab.
You're going to use each swab to gently scrub the inside of your cheek for 10 seconds, and you get to repeat 3 more times.
If you have the opportunity to do so, if you're healthy and you're able to, that you register, because no one should be faced. I would never wish this on anyone.
Our life depends on it. We need you. We really do.
Jennifer Franciotti, WBAL TV 11 News.
What you'll see is the dialogue on the right, which really describes what was going on during my journey when I was looking for my donor. It's spoken in third person, but really what it says is my donor, a person who is African American, especially I am Caribbean American, my family is from St. Kitts and St. Croix, more than likely our transplant donor is going to be someone who comes from the same background as us, because they need to type certain things that are related to genetics, and one of those things would be your ancestry. Although it's not a guarantee, that's what the science seems to indicate. And then unfortunately, what I experienced and what many individuals experience who are going through the same situation that I was going through, especially as a minority, is that just aren't a lot of individuals on the registry. So the registry has to really do, and why it matters is because the registry is just a simple numbers game. When they put myself through the registry to see who were possible matches, I came up with 22 viable candidates. So that sounds good. Yeah, 22 viable candidates. But the issue or the concern or the problem I ran into, which many run into, is that many folks get excluded. So they go down that list quickly, either because they're not available anymore when they registered, either because their information isn't updated.
That's with a scratch post. That's not a scratch post.
Am I hearing something? Am I hearing anything? Are we good? Okay, yeah. I heard some background. All right. Okay. The issue we ran into was just that folks got excluded because of medical reasons, or because they didn't have their information up to date, or because they were no longer interested. So that we ran through the 22 individuals fairly quickly. At the time, my oldest son was the only possible other match, and he was excluded for medical reasons as well. I wish I could say that eventually, I am here. I did end up having a transplant, but I never found a match on the bone marrow registry. Every single individual was excluded for some reason, and I found myself in this waiting game, which is why we went to have various drives to try to find me a donor. And even that initiative did not yield a donor. In the end, I had to go through a clinical trial where I was given stem cells from an umbilical cord from parents who gratefully had donated their child's umbilical cord at birth, unbeknownst to them, and they ended up saving my life. So that is why diversity matters so much, is because if we don't have enough people on the registry to even the odds, then the chances of individuals who are diverse, who are multicultural, who are biracial, their numbers and their likelihood of being able to find a match and to get a bone marrow transplant is significantly reduced, if not completely eliminated. I'm going to move this slide now. So what is a bone marrow transplant? Really, it can be done one of two ways. And I'm sure, I know for a fact, especially when I was going through this, individuals heard horrible things about bone marrow transplants, and they were like, does it hurt? I'm not going through that. And I can totally understand the hesitancy in doing so. But it really is done one of two ways. The first way, the most popular way, about 75% of the way it's done, is through this peripheral blood stem cell donation process. And the best way I can describe it, because I can read this, but I won't, is really how dialysis is done, where you sit down, you're awake the whole time. They go in, they simply take out blood. From the blood, they're able to, it's just like you're giving blood. From the blood, they're able to filter out the stem cells that they need, and then they put it back in through you. So you can see it takes about 4 to 8 hours. Nobody's going through your body, and through that, you're able to give your stem cells and provide a bone marrow transplant to someone in need. The second way is the way folks have usually heard about, and that's done about 25% of the time, and that is a surgical procedure that's done through the hip. You are asleep for the surgical procedure, and there isn't a great... doesn't hurt because you're asleep during it, but then you do have some recovery time. The donor cannot pick which procedure they receive, so that is an important distinction. So what are some of the diseases that are treated by bone marrow transplant? And that's the other thing I wanted to mention, is that unlike a lot of organ transplants, bone marrow grows back. Once you give your stem cells, it will regenerate within 90 days. So you're not losing anything, through other types of transplants, which are just as important. You do, if you give a kidney, or sometimes you're not getting your kidney back, but here you are giving up something that your body will recreate within 90 days. So there are a couple of many ways that transplants save lives. One is through leukemia, which is what I had. I had acute myeloid leukemia. The other is through lymphoma, myeloma. But what's important for the African American community is that one of the other ways that it's being used is to cure sickle cell disease. I don't know that many people don't know someone who either has the trait or suffers significantly as a result of sickle cell disease. And this is one of the ways that bone marrow is being used to cure it. So what is the Color Initiative about? And it really is, as Opel had mentioned before, trying to just bridge another racial gap. If we can increase the number of individuals on the National Bone Marrow Registry, then individuals like myself or others who have come after me, who need a bone marrow transplant, don't have to sit and wait. They don't have to go through clinical trial. They'll be able to go through the list just like everyone else. The individual that I was with, I shared this journey with many people. Many of folks were of different colors. Well, the folks that were, my Caucasian counterparts, he had 75 people show up on his registry. I had 22. So if that's not a divide, I don't know. There's no greater gap. And he was able to get transplant right on the first time and come out of it successfully while I was still waiting for a match. And this is just a slide that really does go to the heart of what the numbers look like for all individuals who are diverse. Only 55% of Latinos can't find a matching donor. 60% of Asian Americans can't find a matching donor. And this number right here, 75% of African Americans cannot find a matching donor. And it's the same for individuals who are multiracial. And again, if you had been able to hear that video when I was going through this journey, it's not because we're different. It's simply because we are not registered. So why? I would say the shortage of diverse donors, it really does cost people lives. There's 17,500 people who need a bone marrow registry. Many folks with sickle cell anemia, multiple myeloma, and we just don't have the individuals who can get us off the sick list and back into a healthy way of life. And again, this is just another slide that talks about why ancestry is so important, but it makes sense. The simplest way when I was going through leukemia, and I was like, what you say blood cancer, like what does that mean? As I was trying to do my research and go through. And really, what's in your blood, the most important component of your blood is your immune system. So obviously going through COVID, I am one of those individuals now, since I've had a bone marrow transplant and because I've had cancer, that is immunocompromised. Well, when you trying to find a match and you're trying to get your bone marrow up and running, well, you need someone who essentially shares the same DNA as you in order to get rid of the bad bone marrow and put in the good one, and to give you a clean and healthy immune system. I'm just going to, so one of the things that we believe prevents folks from registering on the bone marrow registry really has to do with, folks are concerned about how their biological data is going to be used. So on the bone marrow registry, and Mary Kay, you feel free to jump in, all of the health information in data is kept in accordance with HIPAA laws, and those are the strictest laws there are. Speaking as an attorney, I can tell you don't want to violate HIPAA, and they are designed to protect your personal health information because it is extremely private. So, we always say, why the lack as we go through this Color the Registry Initiative? And number one, it's a lack of awareness. Until I went through this process, I did not realize that there was such a disparity in the numbers on the registry. I simply did not know. And so again, trying to pay it forward, we need to bring attention to this crisis. We need to let everyone know that join the registry. It is a simple cheek swab. Not everyone is called, but the greater the number, the greater the likelihood of being able to save a life. And then the other thing is lack of trust, and Opel alluded to that. At the end of the day, our history speaks for itself, and there is significant evidence and historical support for medical genocide, especially of African Americans. We can't turn away from that. We can't go away from that. But what we can say is, we've learned from our mistakes in history, and we do have to learn how to get past our history and trust. That's why, Opel mentioned he got the COVID vaccine. I've also been fortunate enough to get the COVID vaccine because we have to get past the mistakes of the past, which are what they are. I mean, there's no diluting them, but have a little trust in the system so that we can change our future and change our legacies. And so how do we fix this? Number one, I think it starts like this with sessions like this, which is communication, letting folks know this is a real problem. There are many individuals who look just like me or who are of color, maybe not of African American descent, but of Latino descent or Asian American descent, who are waiting for a donor and don't have one available to them. So we need to communicate that fact so that we can boost the numbers on the national registry. And this is how you can help. Because you're always saying, well, what do you want? Well, number one, we want you to become a hero. There's many ways to become a hero. This is one of the important ones. Get swabbed. It's a simple cheek swab of a Q-tip right in your swab, and then you're kept on the national registry. And fortunately, or if you were to be called, take the steps needed to save someone's life, because it could be someone like me or a family member. You just never know. Become an ambassador with Hero, volunteer with us, help us with our fundraising drives, and especially our Marrow drives and our swabbings. Support a patient. That was some of the greatest work that folks gave me as I sat in that hospital for 33 days without being able to really go home at night. And again, when I went back for transplant, being there for someone and helping them when they really do feel just lost and a sense of they need, sometimes just prayer alone is one of the best things you could do for someone if you can't do anything else. And then more importantly, and action, let's drive this into action, host a bone marrow drive. We need individuals who are diverse, who are courageous, and who have the consternation to stand for something and get registered. And there is nothing greater that we can do for our own community than to help get out the word and get registered on the bone marrow registry. And that is all I have for you, I believe. Does anybody have any questions?
Not one question?
Not one.
Well, I would like to reiterate that we can now do bone marrow drives contactless with a drive-through technique that we use. But also, if people are interested, they can take this information back to their companies, places of worship, neighborhood organizations, and we can get drives scheduled for when post-COVID, and we don't even have to wait that long. In April, when the weather is nice, we can do an outside drive-through contactless bone marrow drive. But that's the cheapest. We're not asking you for a donation. And the easiest way that you can make a difference. So I know there has to be some questions out there. So I'm going to go back to mute, but thank you for attending.
So Mary, before you go back to mute,
yes,
for everyone to get a copy of this or a similar presentation to use in their recruiting efforts?
Yes. So we are recording this, and Karis will talk a little bit about that, as well as there are attachments on this video online that is specific to Color the Registry, as well as our General Hero brochure. And for everybody, this is Will Ferguson. He is also a board member. And I believe Dennis O'Donovan from ProfitCom is also on the call, who is a board member.
He's hiding out, but he's here.
Mary Kay, I just wanted to say, from a chamber perspective, last summer at the farmers market, it was tricky because we were just kind of learning, all about the pandemic as we were going. But I would love to arrange with you and Stephanie and anyone else in the nonprofit to continue to get the word out, because that is such a diverse audience. And I think people are comfortable enough that we could probably arrange a drive-through registry event to coincide with the market to really capture a lot of people.
Yeah, I think at the market, it could probably be a walkthrough.
Yeah. Even better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth. For those on the call who don't know, Beth Reingold is the executive director of the Pikesville Owings Mills Chamber of Commerce, and they have been just a fabulous support to Hero, inviting us to the market, hosting events where we are the recipient, and now this. So we are very pleased and honored to have you as a partner, Beth.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Mary Kay. I mean, it's an honor to be able to support such a great nonprofit. So I'm thrilled. And I just wrote you a check today.
Oh, thank you.
Now you're our best friend.
Yes.
It's going to go in the mail tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, we should be worried about the mail. Any questions at all? Well, if you don't have any questions, I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us. I'll give you back the rest of your evening. I really would encourage you to, like I said, join us the many ways to partner with us. Especially, we want to thank the Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated as a Zeta. I appreciate you coming on the phone. I don't know if any of the ladies who joined us are part of organizations, but thank you very much for joining us as well. And I am happy to talk to you offline about my story, about the registry, about anything you'd like to talk about, and happy to come and support you in any initiative you have to further this message, and especially in this space. So thanks so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Karis, you want to wrap up with your information? Is it in the chat?
Yes, if you have any questions or would like to get involved, you can always reach out to me. I have dropped all of my information in the chat box below. Also, feel free to check out our attachments that we have. We have our flyer, we have the Color the Registry brochure. Everything with all of our information is uploaded for you guys. So once again, thank you for joining us tonight.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.